Mile High Insiders with Nick Kendell and Luke Patterson. Head on over to milehighhuddle.com for all things Broncos. Now, it's time to find out what's going on behind the walls of UC Health Training Center.
All right, what's going on, Broncos country? Letting that breathe for just a second here. It's a Saturday night, which means two things. First, welcome to the Mile High Insiders. And secondly, Broncos and Raiders are tomorrow. So I'm Luke Patterson. He's Nick Kendell. How you living, man?
Hey, I'm doing pretty well. It's been a busy week for me. We're kicking off one of the bigger vaccine trials, so been doing that. And I'm still recovering from waking up at 1:30 a.m. and making the 3.5-hour drive to Summit Mount St. Helens a week ago. So made it. It was pretty brutal at the top. It was 50, 60 mile an hour winds and below freezing, but we made it to the summit, made it back down, and I think hiking season's probably pretty much come to a close up here in the Northwest with all the snow. So full on football from here on out, which is a blessing. It's only a blessing. Even win-loss, only get to talk about football, only get to do football. That's life as a breeze.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And speaking of, it sounds like an uphill battle, literally, that you had to fight last weekend. And, well, the Broncos, I think they're going to be getting an uphill battle as another game is on the schedule. And they're not favored, Nick, and they haven't been favored. And I don't think they're going to be favored for too many. So we got to hash some things out. We've got some major comparisons that we have to do with the Broncos and Raiders and tons of material. We have a special guest coming on at 6:15, so stay tuned for that. But before we get there, I want to take care of a little bit of business. Tonight's live stream podcast is brought to you by sportsbetting.com. Broncos country, gambling is now legal in the state of Colorado. And here's what makes sportsbetting.com a no-brainer for all sports fans. Sharp odds, low juice. They have in-house bookmakers. They're not a third-party provider of odds. Reduced juice, best prices. There's hassle-free bonuses, a one-time rollover, meaning the bonus money is yours after you bet it just one time. Other sites, they range from 5 to 30 times. There's 24/7 live customer support, always a real person in the United States. But here's the kicker. At sportsbetting.com/Mile High Huddle, you can get a 100% risk-free week of sports betting up to $1,000. Not just one bet, but all of your bets. Play for a week, and if your losses exceed your winnings at the end of the week, sportsbetting.com/Mile High Huddle will cover 100% of the difference up to $1,000 with a one-time rollover. So, Broncos country, head on over to sports betting at www.sportsbetting.com/Mile High Huddle. That's www.sportsbetting.com/Mile High Huddle. And capitalize on a risk-free week of sports betting up to $1,000. And guys, before we get going, make sure to find us on Twitter. Get at Nick Kendell, at Nick Kendell, MHH, myself, at Luke Patterson, LP. And if you're joining us on YouTube today, do us a huge favor. Like, subscribe, share, and support us on Facebook as well. Click those little thumbs up. Also, don't miss all of our great in-season content at milehighhuddle.com, an affiliate of Sports Illustrated, part of the Maven Coalition, brought to you by Overtime Media.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Broncos country, listen up. Coors Hard Seltzer is not your average seltzer. Rooted in Coors' long history of sustainability, the brand was inspired by a generation that wants to do good in the world with a mission to restore America's rivers. It's never been easier to do good in the world, to do something to make a difference, and Coors Hard Seltzer is paving the way by launching the world's easiest volunteer program. Whatever you're doing, by simply cracking open a can of Coors Hard Seltzer, you're volunteering because our waterways are at risk. 80% of America's rivers are drying up, but through a partnership with Change the Course, Coors Hard Seltzer is helping to protect and restore America's rivers. The way it works, each 12-pack of Coors Hard Seltzer restores 500 gallons of fresh water to U.S. rivers and the communities that depend on them. The results? 1 billion, that's with a B, gang, gallons of water restored to 16 river basins across the U.S., including the Colorado River, and that's just year one. Also, with Coors Hard Seltzer, you're getting 4 refreshing flavors, and it's one cool cause. Enjoy naturally flavored black cherry, mango, lemon lime, and grapefruit. The specs are in, gang. Coors Hard Seltzer is 4.5% ABV and only 90 calories.
Chad, I can speak from firsthand certainty that nothing quite takes the sting off a tough defeat like a Coors Hard Seltzer. I know that everything will be all right, that I got my black cherry, handy, trusty Coors Hard Seltzer. For a football fan, win or loss, it's the way to go.
You heard it here, gang. So join the world's easiest volunteer program by simply drinking Coors Hard Seltzer. You can volunteer to restore America's rivers. You buy Coors Hard Seltzer, you help restore 500 gallons of water into America's rivers. It really is that simple. So visit CoorsSeltzer.com to find a Coors Hard Seltzer near you. That's CoorsSeltzer.com.
For every 12-pack sold through 8/31/2021, Coors will purchase services from Change the Course to restore 500 gallons of fresh river water. Details at CoorsSeltzer.com. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
Nick, it's Raider week, and it's not what it once was, at least when we were kids growing up, right? The Shanahan rivalry with Al Davis, and, rest in peace, Al Davis, and Coach Shanahan happily retired, rooting on the 49ers and his son. But a rivalry game nonetheless, an AFC West game. The Raiders are very much on the rise, and the Broncos, they're just kind of nosediving, Nick. What do you make of this rivalry, what it used to be, and what is it now, or is there anything there?
Well, it's still one of the best rivalries in the NFL, in my opinion. I mean, there's real hate between these two teams. I would say that probably, unfortunately, the Raiders at this point would point to the Chiefs being the biggest rival, but that's just because the Chiefs are the team on the top of the pedestal. But I think when you think AFC West, to me, I think Raiders versus Broncos. That orange, that blue versus the black and silver. That's what it comes down to. So even if these teams both sucked, let's say they were both fighting for the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes, so to speak, then I still think this game would be very much a, fisticuffs, bloodbath type of game. And John Gruden, obviously there's some personality there. This Raiders team also, it's almost kind of while they are older on the coaching staff, kind of like the Broncos are, they're very much the opposite of the Broncos. This is a team that is built on the offensive game plan. They have a lot of good weapons that are performing right now. They have a quarterback who's playing pretty well, but their defense has been very leaky as well. They've had a little bit more health than the Broncos have this season, but again, it's a team that they're putting up points. Derek Carr looks pretty darn good. And the defense, though, the Broncos have a chance to at least keep up and make it a game. Hopefully Drew Locke and some of those guys can be healthy because, again, just kind of opposite teams as far as the strengths and weaknesses go.
Yeah, it's an important game. It's a divisional game, and I like what you said. The hatred is still there because I've heard a lot of people in the media, on the airwaves, in print, on social media, saying that look out for tomorrow. It could get a little chippy. And I find that interesting because on one hand, I'm saying, man, the old rivalry, it seems like it's dead. On the other hand, you're telling me, hey, man, it's still there. This history of not liking each other is still there. These teams know each other. There's fiery personalities, huge egos, right? When you're talking about John Gruden and Vic Fangio, I'm just going to say that as well. There should be some fireworks there. I was at the game, what would that be, last year, where the Oakland Raiders are no more. Brent Musburger on the call, right? Absolutely love it. We saw one of those Drew Locke comebacks, but yeah, man, it's definitely changing a little bit. Now, it's always been interesting to me to see former players from the Broncos and the Raiders that switch sides, right? And I'm thinking of Shelby Harris right now. He was with the Raiders, and he will be out in this game, but he's joined the light side with the Broncos now. And then you've obviously got Devontae Booker over there with the Raiders right now, and we'll talk about him a little bit later as well. But before we get into that, I want to say what's up because we've got lots of folks in here. I'm seeing we got Mr. Boggins, Student Meats, Cody Potter. I saw ZW Designs, Steve Baumgartner up in here, Chris. We've got a great crowd tonight. Charlie Beagle,
CC. We got Nostrin DeHeis. Good to see. He's having a good chat going on here. He says, Noah Fant going to have a good great.
Yes.
I definitely think Noah Fant is going to have at least a good grade.
Can we get that a hashtag? Hashtag we need a good grade because the Broncos need something, Nick. I mean, I tried to hashtag feed Phil. That didn't work. Pat Shermer obviously didn't see it. I was hoping he would, but it's not working. So, man, how did the Broncos beat the Raiders? That's going to be a question that we're going to dive into. And like you said, though, I want to get back to the personalities because growing up, it was always a personality thing with Mike Shanahan versus Al Davis. I grew up I know it's a strong word, so I'm just using it for sports and a rivalry purposes. I hate the Raiders. I hate them, Nick. I like wearing black clothing, but all week I've refrained from it. I can't stand the Raiders, just everything about them. If you're a Raider fan, that tells me so much about you. I can't do it, Nick. And I'm so afraid. We'll get to our picks at the end of the game, but the Raiders are trending up and the Broncos are trending down.
I don't know if the Broncos are trending down. They're just not trending. They're just kind of.
Is that worse? Is that worse than trending down when you're not even on the radar?
I mean, I guess the long term you could say that's worse because if you are trending down, you have a much higher odds of landing a difference-making quarterback in the top of the draft. But I mean, it's probably the most frustrating. It feels like they're in the hamster wheel right now. It's the same thing every single year since Peyton Manning's left. So it's frustrating. And are the Raiders trending up? I mean, you could kind of say yes, but they also have some players they're gonna have to pay here pretty soon. That's a team that they had to sink in a bunch of money into that new stadium that they're not bringing in that, I guess, benefit of going there. Also, eventually, I think Las Vegas is going to have one of the worst home field advantages in all sports because so many people are going to get those cheap flights to Vegas and go there. So, Raiders may be trending in the right direction. I think John Gruden has that offense going in a good spot. But as far as a real contender, they might make the playoffs, but they look like a team that could get obliterated that first game in the first playoff week, wild card week, or whatever it's going to be now that they might expand the playoffs as well.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. What do you make of that? What do you think of the expansion of playoffs? Obviously they're trying to give teams, I guess, a little bit more wiggle room with the current circumstances surrounding the league and the world right now. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Are you indifferent, waiting to see? I mean, where do you land on the playoffs? Because I feel like Jim Mora Sr. playoffs, talking about playoffs all the time right now with the Broncos. Listen, there's a 3% chance that the Broncos are going to get in the playoffs, okay? Right now, the Broncos aren't favored to win a single game the rest of the year. So let's just focus on winning games. But I'm looking at the Raiders, on the other hand. I'm thinking their playoff chances are definitely more significant than the Broncos. But, man, Nick, I just don't know what to make of the expanded playoff format. I don't know if we're going to see more bad football with injuries or if you're going to start to see some of these underdog teams like the Raiders potentially getting an opportunity to upset a big dog. And I know they beat the Kansas City Chiefs early in the season. Now, I don't know if it would be the same in the playoffs because Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are incredible and Eric Bieniemy. But what do you make of the expanded playoff system?
I think it can only be a good thing because it increases the Broncos' chances of making the playoffs. So point blank, that's probably the biggest thing. But also it means more football. So I guess that's not a guarantee given the way the world is trending right now. Who knows? Like I've said it a million times, I refuse to predict what's going to happen a month from now because every single month something more and more crazy happens. But it means on the surface more football. So, whether the Broncos make it or not, or whether it means that some teams that don't deserve it make it, we have the freaking NFC East is going to get a playoff team in there. I don't think you can really dilute the product any more than it already is with the NFC East getting in there. So I think it's all good. I think it's a good thing all the way around. And it just makes more football, more teams are still in it. There's more storylines then, more games towards the end of the season that are going to have meaning. So I think it's good all around. Honestly, I would have it. I know you really have to earn the playoffs, but I like it. I don't know. I want more teams and I want an expanded field. I love having more football and a more chance for some chaos.
Chaos. I like it. Chaos. Because the Raiders are associated with chaos. I don't know if there are going to be fans there at the game, but I'm just so glad that they're not in the black hole anymore. Because look, Halloween was 2 weeks ago. It's over. I'm tired of seeing, the Raider shoulder pads with the spikes and the makeup, and I just can't do it, Nick. I can't do it. I got so much hate in my heart. I got to let it out when it comes to the Raiders. But
that's the thing, man. The Raiders could be 0. Okay, I will take this back. And Broncos country may get really upset at me for this one, but there's only one Raider win I can think of against the Broncos where I was like, you know what, this is okay. And that was the one 2 years ago where they beat the Broncos, but it moved them from the number 2 overall spot in the draft where they would have taken Nick Bosa, and they ended up taking Clelin Ferrell. So that's the only good loss I can ever think of, Broncos versus Raiders long term. Thank God they don't have Nick Bosa. Clelin Ferrell, 0 sacks on the season. I know sacks aren't the end all be all, but oh my God, what a difference that would have been. But overall, if the Raiders, 16-0, 0-16, I hate them just the same. I don't feel that way about the Chargers. I don't feel that way about the Chiefs. The Raiders, F them. Every 0-16. I wish they could go 0-17. I hate them.
I love it. I hate them too, man. And I feel like Broncos country, they feel the same way. I mean, Raider week is important to Broncos country and to the fans. And correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, but it seems like Drew Locke and Phillip Lindsay and a lot of these Broncos pay attention to the fans. We know they pay attention to them with booing, right? And Phillip Lindsay came out there and said, look, we feed off that energy, well, you know, whether it's good energy or bad energy. So to me, I think there's something to be said for that. You got to think that the Broncos are going to be looking at the Raiders and John Gruden. And I mean, they got the Death Star out there in Vegas, right? I mean, it looks like a Roomba. Right. Yeah. The Roomba vacuum cleaner. And there's so many fiery personalities, and you got Derek Carr out there. I'm wondering if he's going to try to make a push to be a Bronco one day. I mean, he's over complimentary of the Broncos defense throughout the years. I thought that was kind of odd when you heard him speaking today or this last week. I don't know if you got to hear Derek Carr.
I did not hear Derek Carr. Sorry. I was having a good, heartwarming thing here. We have Victor Easton coming on from Twitch here. Hello, guys. I've never been much into sports. My grandson plays football with his high school, and I am so proud of him, or his school. I think he'll be big and famous one day. And apparently he is also, I love him with all my heart. And his name is Tyler, and he's 8. Well, Tyler has a fan here from the Mile High Insiders.
Hi, Victor.
That just warmed my heart a little bit. I wanted to say hello. Hopefully that's that Victor, hopefully he has a good game and stays healthy. And we got Muhammad Badri come in with the super sticker. If he has a comment too, we want to toss that up. But if not, that's a very nice Drogon.
Yeah, Muhammad. Yeah, Muhammad. It's a keep it up sticker. So he obviously is appreciating the good work that we're doing here at MHI, and we appreciate you as well. And good luck to your kiddo, man. That's such an exciting adventure. I got to play with my dad as my coach for years. I still talk to my dad every other day, my mama every day. So yeah, that's a beautiful thing, man. Welcome to MHI. Pumped to have you guys here.
And before we get to our guest today, I wanted to hit Pabby real quick. Pabby got the new picture, too, of the family members. Pabby, hope all is going well out in Iowa. Nice. I don't think I'm going to be making it back for the holidays this year, so make sure you say hello to the motherland for me. I miss her. And it's starting to turn to the rainy season here in the Northwest, so that's I'm missing Iowa a little bit more this time. But, Luke, I'm going to kick it off to you. We have a guest today, and I think it's probably time to move along and head that way.
Yeah, Broncos country. Thank you so much, Pabby. I appreciate that super chat. Hope you're feeling well. Hope your dad is feeling well also.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Yeah, Broncos country, we got a real treat for you. We've got a young lady joining the team here who's already a part of Sports Illustrated, Nick. Kim Becker. She's a Sports Illustrated reporter for the Raiders, the Broncos, and the USC Trojans. And she's kind enough to join us today after she's been working all day, Nick. She's been covering USC in Arizona. So she's going to hop on the stream with us any second as soon as John throws her in here. And we're going to get some perspective from her. What's going on, Kim? How are you today?
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
You bet. How'd that USC Arizona game end up? I know it was 20-20 in the third quarter last time I checked.
Well, they came out with the win, 34-30. Again, another little deja vu game like last week, and came out with a W in the last few minutes there. So Keaton Slovis really got back in the game, which was awesome. So yeah, it was fun to watch.
Nice. This is Kimberly Becker joining us. Get at Kimberly J. Becker on Twitter. She covers, again, the Raiders, the Broncos, and the USC Trojans. So, Kim, thank you for joining Mile High Insiders. Nick and I are super pumped to have you on because we want to get a little insight from you with the Raiders, with the Broncos. You're kind of our behind enemy lines right now, right? You're our Broncos spy. We've got to figure out what's going on with those damn Raiders. And with it being Raiders week, I mean, you grew up less than 20 minutes from the Broncos facility, Kim. You know what the rivalry's like. Broncos versus Raiders. Do you still feel that same tension that you did when you were a kid cheering for the orange and blue?
You know, it's so weird. And I kid you not, when I first got the job covering for the Raiders, I told all my friends and my family, and they were like, excuse me? Like for the rival? I mean, they were like appalled that I even could go that way. And a part of me was like, oh my God, yeah. I mean, I grew up, hashtagging Raider hater, calling myself a Raider hater, and the whole 9 yards with that rivalry. But it's interesting once you start working in the industry and really covering football, you realize that you're just doing a job and you appreciate the game of football so much that you kind of forget about all that. I mean, the rivalry is still real, and I get that, and I will always be a Broncos fan, but I have come to really respect the Raiders team once you really take a look at the players and the coaching staff and kind of what they've done in their new facility in Las Vegas and in their new city. It's a game of football. They're just another team, and I think they just have a really bad rap because – well, not a bad rap, but a bad rap in Denver because of their fan base and the passion that their fan base really holds in Raider Nation. And it's a similar passion to the Broncos, to the whole Broncos country. So it's just one of those things is probably never going to go away. It's always going to be a very exciting rivalry game every single time that the Raiders take on the Broncos. But, I'm just excited to watch the game. I can't say that I'm a Raider hater anymore. I can't do it.
Oh, no, you're professional and you're objective. And that's something that Nick and I really pride ourselves on. And one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the show, because you have to tell the truth. And what we're seeing with the Broncos right now, I say they're trending down. Nick told me they're not even trending right now, and I'm not sure what's worse. But for me, the Raiders, they're trending up. I mean, they beat the Kansas City Chiefs earlier in the year, surprised the world and handed them that first L. You've got a former Denver Bronco and Devontae Booker who did nothing here in Denver and seems to be just wilding out there in Las Vegas. I think he's averaging, Nick, between 7 and 8 yards a carry. Is Devontae Booker going to get a little bit of revenge against the Denver Broncos tomorrow?
It's funny you asked that because I was actually thinking before I hopped on with you guys that I kind of relate to him because he was actually asked in a press conference this last week on how he feels about playing the Broncos and if it will be a revenge game, like you said. And he said, it's just another game. It's just another day in the office. And I mean, he wants to go out there and he wants to win with his team. He respects his team and what they're doing. And the Raiders, like you said, they're 5-3. I mean, we're halfway through the season here and they could go 10-6 if they're at this rate, which is, pretty good for the Raiders. And Derek Carr has been doing just awesome. So Devontae Booker, I don't think that he has any bad blood with the Broncos. I think he's just stoked to come back and play and see what happens when the Broncos head to Vegas for the first time.
Yeah, and I think a big thing for this game particularly is that the Raiders' offensive line is questionable. I guess just across the board, questionable. So is there any insight you can give us on who the Raiders are going to toss out there on the offensive line this week? Because if anybody knows, we're already talking about running backs today. Luke, I hate you for this. I'm
Nick
running
loves
back.
Kim, if you don't know, Nick loves running backs. To Nick, they're the most important position on the field. So anytime I can, I try to talk about as many running backs, specifically ones I know he doesn't like. Now, I didn't like Devontae Booker. I thought his footwork was so sloppy in Denver that some friends and I nicknamed him Pigpen. Well, I'm eating crow this year because Pigpen is wilding out. So Nick's exactly right. What can you tell us about that offensive line?
I mean, they're a physical offensive line. They've shown up super physical. They are making plays. Obviously, Josh Jacobs has been on fire. So I would imagine they're definitely going to use that weapon there. But, I don't know. It's kind of a surprise every week. I mean, Derek Carr has just been really nailing a lot of different targets, but I don't know. They just show up so physical, and I think they might have to alter a little bit playing the Broncos just because Broncos have kind of been all over the place. But, I mean, they played a similar game against the Chargers, the Raiders did last week, that the Broncos played against the Chargers 2 weeks ago. So it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how they match up here, but I think they're going to have to see kind of how the Broncos defense shows up a little bit first.
Yeah, and just to go over it kind of just for a second, Rodney Hudson, he was a full participant this week, but he's on the injury report. Colton Miller, doubtful. Gabe Jackson, questionable. And the right tackle, who's really highly paid, is for some reason escaping me right now. Played for the Patriots as well, has been injured as well. So Trent Brown, that's exactly right. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Raiders can do for, I guess, putting together that offensive line. There also, I think Maurice Hurst is injured, who has been, I would say, the Raiders' best defensive player. But defense, that's kind of fun to talk about. I want to talk about Henry Ruggs, Nelson Aguilar, Darren Waller, and also a little bit of relation to Jerry Jeudy. So tell me, how's Henry Ruggs been so far this season? Because I'll be honest with you, that was the guy I locked in for the Broncos. I really wanted that speed. I wanted a guy that, even when he's not getting the ball, I feel like he draws coverage and opens up things for everybody else. I mean, if Darren Waller gets a big contract, he needs to give at least like 5% to Henry Ruggs. But tell me about Henry Ruggs so far this season for the Raiders offense and how he's kind of unlocked a lot of things for them.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. John Gruden said that, when they were looking at wide receiver options, that Jerry Jeudy was right up there. I think CeeDee Lamb also, he said, and along with Ruggs. And Henry Ruggs is fast, like you said. He is so speedy. He is explosive. I mean, when I say that they have a physical O-line, I'm talking about him too. Like, he's wild. He makes plays happen. He also missed a couple of games due to injuries, so I know that he probably looks a little bit on the lower end stat-wise compared to Jeudy. But he also said this last week that going up against his teammate, his Alabama teammate, and Jeudy is going to be really fun. But again, he's part of the team. He wants to come out with a win, but it's always fun to play against guys that he's played with before. But yeah, I mean, he's he's on fire right now. So I think that the Broncos got to watch out for him. And like I said, they are holding down the fort in their new home at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. And when they know that one of their biggest rivals is going to come play them there, I think it puts a little bit of a fire under their even more so than before. So I think he's definitely someone you've got to watch out for.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And I think Henry Ruggs, I hate to say it because I don't need him to be more utilized against the Broncos, but the Raiders have underutilized him in the passing game. But like Nick said, he's opening up so much for his teammates. They respect him on those deep routes so much. I mean, his knowledge of the route tree is sharp. You can tell that he's starting to hone into the details. And I know that's what John Gruden and Chucky loves to preach it, right? And for me, it just feels like tomorrow's going to be an old school game. It's going to feel like it's going to be the Jacobs and Devontae Booker show. I hope that's not the case because the Broncos defensive line is beat up. And speaking of beat up and potentially ill, John is telling me right now, Corey Littleton is on a specific list for a current circumstance that is going around this world.
Yeah.
So, again, another injury, but whether it's going to be in the passing game or the running game, I'm not sure. Now, John Gruden, he knows offenses. He's never met a quarterback that he doesn't like. And I want to ask you about Drew Locke a little bit because I was one of those people saying, I think Drew Locke is going to go to the Raiders. I feel like Chucky loves him. He says he still has a personal relationship, which I don't know how I feel about that out here in Broncos country with Drew Locke. And obviously Chucky wishes Locke well when he's not playing the Raiders. How do the Raiders look at Drew Locke? Because it's 50-50 here in Broncos country, as you know, Kim. I mean, half the people are saying, yes, he's the answer. The other half are saying, no way, we need to move on. And a few people are saying, let's just wait a little bit. What do the Raiders think of Drew Locke?
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole situation with Drew Locke, he had a rough start to this season. And not to say that many teams didn't. There's been a ton of injuries all across the league. But Drew Locke, I don't think that the Raiders are sleeping on him quite yet. I think that they know. I mean, watching in the last couple of games, he's come out strong in the fourth quarter. So they're not going to just give up on him in the first three quarters or first half or whatever it is if the game goes as it has been in the last two weeks or so, and just decide that, they've got this one in the bag. I think that they know that he can come out and he can win that game. And Derek Carr, I mean, obviously statistically wise, Derek Carr is doing much better than Drew Locke. But of course, Drew Locke did miss a few games. But Carr has thrown, 16 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions. And Drew Locke is at 6-6 with that. So it's a little rough when you look at it that way. But again, Drew missed a couple of games and I think that they're gonna come into this game knowing that he can definitely show up, whether it's going to be halfway through the game, at the end of the game, or through the entire game. So I think that they're okay with him coming in, and I think that they think the Broncos will keep him.
And I'd like to stay on this quarterback conversation here real quick. Mm-hmm. Something that I think is obviously preaching quarterbacks probably the alpha and omega for a team succeeding. There's been some reports that maybe John Gruden was looking for a different quarterback besides Carr, but Carr looks like he's been playing. I mean, there was like reports about Kyler Murray being a guy the Raiders were interested in, blah, blah, blah. Derek Carr's playing like a franchise quarterback right now. Was not the case last year. What's changed? What's the big difference maker? Because right now, Derek Carr, maybe he's not a team that you can put the whole team on his back and he'll lead you to a Super Bowl, but he looks like a quarterback that if the team around him is good enough, he can win a Super Bowl. That's how good he's playing right now. So what's the big difference? It's just 1 year, all of a sudden a different guy.
I mean, I think you just said it. I think it is the team around him, and I think it's the way that they're showing up. And they do have a few rookie players that are coming in hot and they're coming out big. And I think that their confidence has just really stayed up. That's what I've noticed, especially his confidence in Derek Carr. He's calm and collected every game that he shows up. I mean, and you see him in the press conferences after the game, and he's never, he's not a conceited guy. He's not gloating. He's just cool. And he's like, here I am. I'm doing my job and I'm finally doing it really well. And I want this to stay. And I think it's just kind of his demeanor and also his connection with the coaching staff there. And with Gruden, I think Gruden has a lot of confidence in him and wants him to show up that way every game. And they haven't got too excited either. So they have been playing better this year than the last couple of years, but they haven't let it go to their head yet. And I think that stands true with Derek Carr.
She's Kim Becker. Get at her at Kimberly J. Becker on Twitter. Covers she's a reporter with us on Sports Illustrated that covers for the Raiders, the Broncos, and USC. And we thank her for joining us. And we have a couple more before we let you get out of here because we know you've been working all day. Talking about Derek Carr a little bit. Now, Derek Carr and Chucky, they're neighbors, right? Don't they live in the same neighborhood right next door to each other?
Do they? I don't know.
I thought they did. I thought that was one of those weird things
they
when they
don't tell
moved.
me their addresses, unfortunately. That's information that I'm not allowed to get at.
Well, and the reason I ask is because there was some potential trade talk in the offseason, right? When Marcus Mariota came in, they're thinking, oh, is he challenging Derek Carr? Well, yeah. I think Derek Carr got the message of nobody's taking my spot here. He stepped up to the competition, and you see a marriage between offensive guru John Gruden and their quarterback, Derek Carr. And we're not seeing a marriage right now with Pat Shurmur and Drew Locke. We're seeing this messy dating game of who can do what, and it's a big mess. So as I look at Derek Carr and John Gruden, it's something that for me, it represents what the Raiders have done the last few years. I think ultimately the Broncos are going to have their hands full. And a few years ago, everybody made fun of the Raiders, right? Let's trade Khalil Mack. Let's trade Amari Cooper. Let's burn it to the ground. Well, you know what? They're doing okay now. Things are starting to trend up for them now. They're no longer that joke that everybody thought that they were. And it pains me to say it.
Yeah. No, I think you're exactly right. And with the whole Marcus Mariota thing, I think everybody thought that he was going to come in, and they thought that he was at least going to be backup, and he's not even backup right now. So I think that Derek Carr definitely got the message. And again, going back to, just talking about his personality, I don't think it was like, oh, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to show them who's boss. It was just like, oh crap, I got to get my, what together. And that's what he did. And he did it in a way that was really respectable, like you said. And I think that he has definitely led this team into more of a reputation that is respectable. And it's the team is just, Raider Nation, I don't know if it had anything to do with them going from California to Las Vegas. I'm assuming that everybody followed him over there. From what I can see, it looks like they did. And they're just a really passionate fan base. And I think that Derek Carr also just wants to have the passion on his team be respectable. And that's definitely what he's doing this season.
She is Kim Becker, and she is getting all kinds of love from the MHH community, guys. So be sure to get at her on Twitter, DM her, comment her, get in on all of her work for the Raiders, USC, and the Broncos. She's constantly busy. She's been on the beat all day. And as we get you heading out here, Kim, it looks like everybody wants you to give us your final prediction tomorrow. We're going to put you in a tough spot because you're floating that fine line, right, between orange and blue and silver and black. So be careful with your prediction now. I want honesty, but I'm hoping for an answer that I'm going to like. What do you have?
I got to remind everybody here that, I still also host video for Mile High Huddle. So I'm not a straight up Raiders gal here, guys. So don't come in here and be like, oh yeah, the Raiders fans love her. The Broncos fans can love me too, because I also love Broncos fans and the Broncos. I do think the Raiders are going to win this game. It's nothing against the Broncos, of course, but I do think the Raiders are going to come out with a win. Oh geez, maybe 24-17.
Ooh, it's going to be a close game then.
I don't know. I think the Broncos are still going to show up. They're passionate as well. They know this rivalry is big, and they know this game is important. It's very important for both of them, actually, to get a win for any of the playoff looks from here.
Sure.
But I think it is going to be a good game. I really do.
Awesome. Well, Kim, thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to have you on in the near future. And appreciate all of your work, and thank you for your time.
Of course. You guys have a good night, and hopefully you guys have a good answer for your game tomorrow.
Awesome. Thanks, Kim. Take care. She is Kim. She is Kim Becker. Get at her at Kimberly J. Becker on Twitter. She does so much great work, Broncos, Raiders, and USC, and we thank Kim for joining us tonight on Mile High Insiders.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
That was awesome, Nick. That was absolutely awesome. Kim gives it to us straight, man. She's giving it to us straight because she's honest in what she sees. Now, half my problem with all these folks on Twitter come at me with, call me a Drew Locke apologist. Come at me with, I hate Philip Lindsay. Dude, I got Melvin Gordon's PR DMing me because I'm doing hashtag feed Phil. It's not a question of, do I hate the Broncos? It's a question of what we're seeing on the field. Do you want to accept it or not? Nick, Kim said it. She said the Raiders, they're trending up. They put in that work, and it's the return on investment. It's coming. Do you see the same thing? I mean, we're all seeing the Raiders for what they are. They're on the rise. They're not there yet. And I'm seeing in the comment section, Derek Carr, what has Derek Carr won? You're exactly right. Derek Carr hasn't won anything. But when we're looking at quarterbacks, Derek Carr versus Drew Locke, you cannot tell me that Drew Locke is a better quarterback right now than Derek Carr.
I mean, we had this hard conversation a few weeks ago when we kind of ranked the quarterbacks in the AFC West. And right now, Drew Locke stands firmly as the fourth best quarterback in the division. Now, the Broncos, I mean, it sucks, but there we are. I mean, that also speaks to how good the quarterback play has been in the AFC West as well. True. It's not like Drew Locke has been the worst quarterback in the NFL, in my opinion, but Derek Carr is playing like a Pro Bowl level quarterback. Justin Herbert's playing like one of the best rookie quarterbacks we've seen in a decade. I mean, literally, it's Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert. I guess they weren't rookies, but first year quarterbacks. And then the reigning MVP, or the MVP of the Super Bowl and best quarterback in football, maybe besides Russell Wilson and Patrick Mahomes. So it just is what it is. It puts the Broncos in a really bad position. And in this game, hopefully the Raiders' offensive line being so dinged up, their best defensive player is dinged up in Maurice Hurst. Maybe that's enough that the Broncos can come out with a win. I know the Broncos are extremely injured too. I mean, we saw what that defensive line looked like last week. No Mike Purcell, no Shelby Harris. Hopefully they'll get their cornerbacks back this week because God bless, they're going to need them. But still, it's tough. It's frustrating. Broncos, I still feel like they're in a much better position than they have been in prior seasons. Overall, I just think that the youth of the offense overall, there are players I can bank on. I mean, Pro Football Focus just this week, and say what you will about their grades, but they had 3 Broncos on the midseason All-Pro team. So this team has talent. That's not a question. This team can win games. They just got to get it all together. And again, the biggest question, what is Drew Locke? Is he good enough? How good can he be? Or what kind of read are we getting on him? It's just, we don't know right now. I see a lot of people talking Zach Wilson in the comments section. So, I mean, it's going to be tough for Broncos country. And we're going to have to stay level. Again, not too high, not too low. But again, there's talent on this team. Can Drew Locke take them over that hump and start having them, instead of treading water, start going in some sort of direction?
Not too high and not too low. I love that you said that, because that's how Drew Locke needs to play and handle his emotions, right? Isn't that, it's feast or famine with Drew. It really is. It's either, I can get us out of this and it's going to be the best thing ever and I'm smiling and I'm dancing, or I'm just completely heartbroken after that game and I'm going to take it all and just eat it all and eat all the blame. And, I respect that to a certain degree, but change it. And I get he can only control what he can control. Now, he is not the worst quarterback in the league. His completion rate might be at 56%, but you're exactly right, Nick. These are tools. These are circumstantial things, and it's like you've reminded me too. I mean, the Broncos, they lead the NFL in drops. So how does that help Drew Locke win games? And you remind me also with Albert O, right? A player that I've been wanting so much on the field. Well, when he got his first game opportunity, how many touchdowns did he drop? So it's the disconnect right now. So while Drew Locke certainly hasn't done himself any favors, you got to look at the things in context. You got to look at the offense. You got to look at Pat Shurmur. All these things together, you're exactly right, Nick. I mean, they depend on each other. Drew Locke can't just play the game by himself. He has talent. He's got tons of talent, and maybe we're going to see Jerry Jeudy have another breakout game against his former teammate.
That's definitely possible. I know Jerry Jeudy is questionable, so fingers crossed he can go. And a very different player than Ruggs and how they're being utilized and whatnot. Jerry Jeudy is much more of a volume player, where Ruggs is more of a scheme piece. He's like that 3-point shooter. He's Kyle Korver out there. You have him on the court and he creates space for everyone else. Even if he's not touching the ball, if you're not respecting it, he's going to kill you. So it's a little bit different kind of player. But I think the biggest thing with Locke is we still have, 8 games left, and they're against pretty average teams for the most part. It's not like the Broncos gauntlet of a schedule they had at the beginning of the season. There's a good amount of, garden variety, milquetoast kind of teams. So the Broncos, you should get a read on Drew Locke by the end of the season. My biggest fear is that we're going to be in the same position where we have the flashes and we don't really know what to do. And there's probably not an option. Like, the Broncos aren't going to go out and pay Dak Prescott. They don't have the cash. I mean, just call it as it is. They don't have the cash to be able to go do that. They're also out of range of probably out of range of a Justin Fields, definitely out of range of a Trevor Lawrence. So what do? Maybe you go make a move for Sam Darnold. Maybe you go make a move for somebody like, who would be available? Jameis Winston type. But again, it's just not
Matt Ryan.
Maybe Matt Ryan, maybe Matt Stafford. Those guys have contractual things that make them a little bit more difficult. And the Falcons also are trending in the right direction with Raheem Morris as the head coach. So maybe they might hold on to him.
They sure are.
Go. So who knows what the Broncos are going to do? Best case, we see enough from Drew Locke. We can go into it next season with a better team, a healthier team, and a offseason of at least having the basis and work on it underneath, so that way he can work from that. I mean, the offseason being what it is, the young offense really struggled with Drew Locke this season. So we'll see what happens there. But gosh, it's, again, I hate to be a broken record, but it all comes back to the quarterback position, and we got to know.
Yeah, we got to know, and you're not a broken record, Nick, and neither am I. How sick are you about seeing the footwork? I don't even want to say footwork. I feel like Rex Ryan right now. I mean, just the sloppy footwork, the happy feet, the not climbing the pocket. I mean, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. It's maddening because he has flashes that he can do it, and then he has flashes of going back to the bad habits. So this isn't a Tim Tebow thing where he just can't play, because we've seen that he can play. Now, he's not winning games like Tim Tebow won games, and I'm not a Tebow guy either, but it's like you're explaining, Nick, and you're hitting the nail on the head. These things are circumstantial also. It's not all Drew Locke. I mean, the blame can certainly be shared when the Broncos offense is being scored, 121 to 64 in the first half. I mean, they're averaging 8 points in the first half, the first quarter, 22 points a game. That's not going to do it. And that's not all on the quarterback. I hope to see something different, but I want to open it up to Broncos country right now with our last little bit of the show, our last, third of the show, really? Because we have so many active comments in here right now, and you've hit a few. I want to hit a few. Clayton Heron was in here earlier when Kim was on, and wanted us to give his wife a shout out. Happy birthday to Mrs. Heron. And thank you so much for joining us on MHI on your birthday. Hopefully the Broncos can get a win tomorrow for a belated birthday gift. I'm seeing some things from Broncos country right now, and I love seeing the hate against the Raiders because you can tell it's real for the fans, Nick. I mean, you can just see it, that they're not a fan either of the Raiders. They're not buying the jive, and neither should we. But we got Gamer Central coming in with a generous super chat. Thank you so much. Very refreshing to hear Kim's takes live. I love her videos with Chad. Gamer Central, thank you for joining us. We love that you're joining us on MHI, and we appreciate your donation. It helps us do what we do. And Gamer Central is referring to our own Chad Jensen, host of the At Huddle Up podcast with Zach Kelberman. At milehighhuddle.com, you could see Chad's work. You can see Kim's work. Those two do great videos. They're excellent 2-minute videos, shorter videos, longer videos, and excellent insight. Chad's one of the best in the business. Kim knows her stuff. That's why I'm pumped that she got on here. I'm pumped that you guys loved hearing from her. And we got a friend of the show here. Nick, you know Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris Hernandez coming in here. Hashtag click those little thumbs up. Go Broncos. Thank you very much, Chris. We appreciate you. We see a nice shirt, and hopefully you're enjoying a beer there. I meant to grab a beer. I was doing laundry before this, so I didn't grab it. So I'll have a beer after the show, guys. Don't worry about that. So, yeah, I see a lot of people also talking about Drew Locke. That's topic of conversation until it's not in Broncos country, talking about the offensive line. And this is something that, and hats off to Kim, because I tossed her an offensive line question, and not every single reporter is ready to talk the hog mullets. Yeah, she was ready for some offensive line, which is great. But the Raiders, obviously they have a quarterback who has more experience than Locke, but the offensive line for the Raiders is dinged up. Trent Brown injured, Colton Miller probably not playing, Gabe Jackson injured, Richie Incognito might not be going also, and then Rodney Hudson, literally their starting 5 offensive line is injured. And the Broncos, while they have dinged up offensive line, Bowles is still out there, Reisner is going to play, Cushenberry is going to play, probably going to see Glasgow back. It's really only that right tackle position. If the Broncos quarterback position is good enough if Derek Carr is good enough to overcome missing 3 or 4 of his offensive linemen still looking competent out there, that's the measuring stick you need to use to look at Drew Locke. I mean, Derek Carr is not a great athlete by any means, and he gets rid of the ball quick, which, good for him, uses his eyes very well to keep safeties back, not getting those overhang defenders to come down and take the ball away. But this is a measuring stick game because the Raiders' offensive line is really injured, really badly injured, and Derek Carr is not the best quarterback. So if you can make every single excuse for Drew Locke on the offensive line, and then look across the way and see Derek Carr moving the ball effectively with almost an entire new offensive line out there, I really don't know what you're watching and what excuses you have. They're not valid because they're not holding up for the guy across the way.
A measuring stick. I like that. That's the ultimate measuring stick, right? What do you do? It's making chicken salad out of chicken, and that's something that the great quarterbacks do, right? They're able to elevate those around them. And I'm not ready to call Derek Carr a great quarterback. I think he's a good quarterback, and he's having a I'm not gonna say great. He's having a very good season. The jury's out for me, but I definitely trust Derek Carr over Drew Locke right now. It pains me to say it because I can't stand his mascara or anything else. I just can't stand him because he's a Raider. That's all. Yeah. I have no beef with the guy with anything else. But talk about expectations, Nick, because the Broncos seemed like they wanted us to crown him when they beat the Chargers, right? Everybody's booing us. You guys can't be booing us. And Nick, you're on KOA all the time. I'm on the Fan. And something that I said a couple weeks ago was, look, man, that's the expectation now. You've shown that you can win games. You've shown that you can do these fourth quarter comebacks. So go do it. It sounds similar to what you're saying with Derek Carr. Hey, man, you're the franchise quarterback. So go do it. I don't care what the offensive line is, and I don't think there should be any excuses for Drew Locke tomorrow either. Broncos are going to have some banged up offensive linemen. I think we have Calvin Anderson in there as the starting right tackle. Maybe John was digging into that for me, and I think that's what it's going to be, Nick. I think we're going to have our own right tackle problems. I know we have Graham Glasgow coming back up in the house, so that should be good. But yeah, man, it's a quarterback driven league, and I think tomorrow it's going to be either a great day or a terrible day. There's no in between because it is the Raider game. It's a divisional game, and until the Broncos look in the mirror and realize that rebuilding should be an option, not a reboot, not a reload, a full team rebuild, I think we're going to see a lot of the same stuff.
That's probably one of my biggest issues with the Broncos of the last few seasons that I think is commendable for the Raiders is that they looked their team in the eyes and they said, you know what, this roster's not competing right now. And they tore it down. And that's very good for a new regime coming in. John Gruden obviously had the job security of that 10-year deal, so he could afford to do that. And that's something also when you talk about maybe going forward is if the Broncos don't do good this year and Vic Fangio comes up on year 3, does he trust Drew Locke to get him over that hump? Because next year would be a make or break year for Fangio as well in that year 3 of his deal. So that remains to be seen how he plays down the stretch this season. But,
do you think they're married? Do you see quarterback and head coach not married?
Nope, they're not married. Unless Vic, I think if Drew Locke was maybe that top 10 pick under Vic Fangio's regime and guidance, then that would be the case. But a second round pick, there's no way they're married. And if Drew Locke struggles down the stretch, I could really see this Broncos team going for a veteran quarterback that would be much safer, that the old coach could just focus on the defense, not have to worry so much about the young offense and kind of marry that to his defensive scheme just for some stability. But that really depends on how Drew Locke plays down the stretch. But married? By no means, but Locke needs to play better because next year is a determining year, I think, for Vic Fangio, and I think also married to Fangio as well as Shermer. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. We get to see what happens down the stretch here, but I would definitely worry about Vic Fangio's. If I was Vic Fangio, I would definitely worry if Drew Locke continues to play the way he has, being married to that guy for next season and my job being on the line for what he's shown so far this season.
There's been a lot of noise this week, Nick, not just Raider noise, but a lot of noise that I just want to touch on just a little bit. You see some Brandon McManus drama, right? There was a huge controversial call, and you know how much I love talking about special teams, especially when it comes to the Broncos. But last week, Nick, we saw a debacle in the first quarter where Brandon McManus did not get an opportunity to kick what I believe would have been a 58-yard field goal. Instead, there was a timeout taken, and the team ultimately punted. Now, Coach Fangio came out and said that special teams coach Tom McMahon ultimately talked him out of letting BMAC kick the field goal. BMAC was not very receptive to that answer. Go look it up on Twitter. There's a little bit of drama there. There's a little bit of drama with Von Miller and his podcast from an interview done 6 weeks ago with a radio station. So there's a lot of drama surrounding a bad football team, Nick. It seems like if it's not one thing, it's another when it comes to drama. You've got coaches that have to stay away from the building because of those funny little circumstances. And Ed Donatel, I believe, is going to be missing a game also. I'm just sick, man. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of the drama. I'm sick of the arrogance almost of this bad and boring football team because yes, they have the talent, but they haven't done the work yet. It's like they want the title and they haven't quite earned it. They haven't even got to the game yet. Do you get that same sense, or am I just being get off my lawn grouchy guy because the Broncos aren't winning football games?
I think you're being a little bit get off my lawn grouchy.
Yeah, am I?
Just a little bit. Now, I will say that the dancing and the, look at us, look how great we are, gets real old quickly if you aren't performing. So the dancing is fun and all when you're coming back and winning games, but you can't be doing that when you're down. And also you can't be doing it like you've been there when you're a team that's 3-5 right now and can't beat a very average Falcons team. So right. I get it. And I know this is a young team and they want you want them out there having fun and celebrating when they do well. You want them to search for that, but they have a lot of work to do. And I think they'd also be the first ones to tell you that as well. So if let's say the Broncos are getting beat next week and, you see them score a touchdown and they're down 30-14 or something, and you see Drew Locke doing the robot, that would bother me. But I think that's not really the case. So hopefully it'll be the other way around. The Broncos are 30-14. They're having a great time. But yeah, I see what you're saying. I don't agree 100%. It's a young team. I think when it warrants it, they should celebrate.
I agree. Now, Garrett Bowles isn't old, and Tim Patrick had to stop him from trying to celebrate after the Broncos scored a touchdown in Atlanta. And ultimately, I thought that was a really good move. I was so happy to see Tim Patrick do that. Tim Patrick's a guy I hope they keep around, Nick. I like him. I'm not saying he's the greatest thing ever, and they need to go pay some extravagant contract to the guy. But for a blue-collar receiver that can step in and be reliable, be consistent, he's been healthy this year. I know that's been a knock on him as well. Tim Patrick in this game, that hamstring, that's been bugging him, right? Do we know if Tim Patrick's a go?
Let me look it up here real quick to see. He's not on. Okay, he was limited on Wednesday and Thursday, but was full and is not on the injury report for game status. So I would assume he is good to go.
Would you like to see Tim Patrick come back on a team-friendly deal?
I would definitely approach him with it, but I also think that I'm interested to see what Tyree Cleveland can become. I want to see more snaps for Hamler and Jeudy, obviously, or just more game involvement. And also Courtland Sutton's going to be back. And I don't want there to be any chance for a deal to Tim Patrick, meaning that there's less of the pie to pay to retain Courtland Sutton. Because, we all see how much this team misses Courtland Sutton right now. That play last week where Tim Patrick was looking for the flag, that would have been a Courtland Sutton touchdown, I think. You're just missing that element. This whole offense, how they're pushing the ball vertically constantly, Drew Locke with the massive air yards per attempt, missing Courtland Sutton, probably one of the best above the rim deep threats in the NFL, hurt this team. So would love Tim Patrick back. But that said, if it means at all that you have less of a chance retaining Courtland Sutton, probably I'm saying sayonara. But again, James Campbell is saying here, he's a RFA next year. So you don't have to worry about it that much. He'll be back.
Awesome.
At least
Thanks,
that's what
James.
Sports Track says.
Awesome. Thank you, James. I appreciate you weighing in. Another Mile High Huddle member puts out great content. You can see him at milehighhuddle.com and some of his great work. Nick is, of course, a writer on there as well. Also part of Building the Broncos with Carl on Tuesday nights. And then Eric Trickle put up a good piece today. I don't know if you got a chance to read it, about my boy, McTelvin Najim. McTelvin Najim should be seeing some snaps this week, Nick. I know he's a young guy. I know he's not quite ready, and I was way premature on wanting to get him in there just because I was so excited, and I just kind of got a man crush on him at the Shrine game last year and everything, right? And Mike Mayock was there too at the Shrine game, and just about wet myself when I met him. But McTelvin Najim. Now, Eric had a really good piece on who he is, what to expect from him. What do you expect from him? Because we're talking about these defensive linemen that are beat up for the Broncos. Well, the ones that are going to be in there, right? Like Sylvester Williams, McTelvin Najim. What can we expect from some of these young players that haven't gotten a lot of reps?
I would be very concerned if the Raiders' offensive line was healthy, because they have a team that is very much built to punch you in the mouth repeatedly. But right now, the Raiders' offensive line is so dinged up that despite the Broncos being very light, not having many stout players on the interior defensive line, they're missing Mike Purcell. Obviously, they're missing Shelby Harris. You're out there with DeMarcus Walker, Jeremy Mount Jones, and McTelvin Najim. Those guys have been put on skates multiple times this season. Mm-hmm. That's not really their game right now to be those plug types of players. So if the Raiders' offensive line was healthy, I would be very worried. That said, it's not a healthy offensive line. I still think that they're going to the Raiders offensive line will be able to move them a little bit just because, especially DeMarcus Walker, it's not their game to really be stout at the point of attack. But I think Ajim will have a good game. He's just a guy, it was always going to take a year at least. Because, I mean, we also said it about Lloyd Cushenberry. We were excited about them. Oh, they're day 2 picks, but they were the back of the 3rd round. They were guys who needed to take time. We saw that. I mean, a good example is Matt Paradis and Connor McGovern. Those guys spent their first year on the practice squad before doing anything in the NFL. Right now, we're seeing Lloyd Cushenberry and McTelvin Najim thrown into the fire. So don't give up on those guys just yet. It takes time, especially for those trench players. Unless they're like top 20 types of picks, it's going to take time. And even then, I mean, look, Garrett Bowles took time. So trench is very large learning curve. Always takes time. Just a little patience. So I'm hoping to see flashes from Ajim. I'm hoping to see that maybe he'll use that spin move that he showed so many times off at Arkansas for a 300-pound guy. It's pretty fun to see. Yeah. But as far as, being a difference maker, I'm not expecting, a Jeffrey Simmons year 1 or an Ed Allen. It's a guy who's going to take some time. So the flashes are good, knowing that there's better to come.
Yeah, and I think it's a good opportunity for the young guy to get in there and show Bill Kolar and Vic Fangio what he can do. Vic Fangio pays extreme attention to the defensive line. I know that sounds surprising for a head coach, but he's a defensive guy. And Nick, we were talking earlier, and you're like, man, we got to talk about Battle of the Trenches, because you're exactly right. It's with the quarterback and the trenches. I mean, before the receivers can get the ball, before the running backs can break a run, I mean, the quarterback's got to make sure it's a solid handoff. The offensive line has to make sure their jobs are done also. So I agree. Shelby Harris was, I think, a player that was kind of grabbed by Vic Fangio as soon as he got here. And Vic Fangio, it took him a little while to figure out how to use Shelby, but that was a good example of Vic Fangio's knowledge on the defensive line end. And his, of course, Bill Kolar, I'm a great, huge, big Bill Kolar fan. So I'm hoping McTelvin Ajim can take some good reps, get some good experience, and respond to some quality coaching. Everybody, I encourage you guys to go look at that article from Eric at milehighhuddle.com. There's several other pieces up there from Chad Jensen. Nick, I don't know if you had thrown anything up there this week. I know you had a couple articles last week, but I had just wrote about, I don't know, do you listen to the QB school at all, or have you read or gotten into that at all? Yeah,
a few times. If it comes across, especially anything that's Drew Locke, I'll watch it just to see what they have to say.
Yeah, not bad. And
QB class, you mean?
QB school. QB school, yeah. It's the QB school, and gosh dang it, I'm forgetting. I want to call him TJ Yates because it's not TJ Yates. It's JT O'Sullivan. It's those first 2 initials always jack me up. So journeyman quarterback, breaks down tons of film. It's interesting. Now he's a real kind of interesting cat, so I like watching his videos, and they've got some fun personality, and he involves his fans. But he was asked about Drew Locke a lot too, and he made a lot of it sound like, the play calling and tailoring to your quarterback is ultimately going to be the best way to figure out how to have success with Drew Locke. As we wrap up the show with just the last few minutes, do you expect to see Pat Shurmur bend a little bit more to Drew, because the pressure's up and the heat's up, and like you said, it's great when everything's winning and everybody's dancing and scoring points, but when you're losing, and if you lose to the Raiders, man, that's going to be a gnarly post-game press conference. I don't care if it's on Zoom.
Yeah, I mean, definitely it's something you want to look for. But, man, we also got a lot of Raider trolls in here going on right now. I don't know if Buana's still sticking around. Got to put some people in timeout. Bad. But it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Gosh, I don't know. Raiders, just hate him, man. I just hate him so much. So, and Bronco are going to have a revenge game. We'll see about that.
And you know what? Yeah. And for all you Raider trolls, welcome to Mile High Insiders. I appreciate you guys. Yeah. I appreciate you guys joining and listening to us talk about our Broncos. And we might be having hard times, but that's okay, because that Super Bowl 50 championship's a lot sweeter than when was the Raiders' last championship, Nick? Was that 2002?
I think that's when they went and they got beat by Tampa Bay.
That's right. They got smoked by Tampa Bay. So it's been a little while. So just settle down a little bit, as Jerry Jones would like to say. But as we wrap up the show, we got Kenneth Booker, one of our MHH Super Chat superstars, coming in with one of our final questions for the evening. Kenneth Booker, Raiders fans, were you even alive the last time they won a Super Bowl? The Raiders have only made the playoffs once since Facebook's existence. Kenneth Booker with the mic drop off the top rope. He's exactly right. And Nick, was it that playoff game, Raiders versus Texans, where they had, I think it was like the third or fourth string quarterback for the Raiders in?
Yeah, that was an ugly game. I remember. I think the Texans might have even had a backup quarterback in as well.
Yeah,
So,
that was a Bill
ugly.
O'Brien. That was a Bill O'Brien game. Gosh darn it. And Kenneth Booker, I love it, dude, because you're exactly right. And he's got that picture of Philip Lindsay back when he was in practice squad wearing the number 2. I absolutely love it, Kenneth, because that type of stuff is what we need. And I love to hear Raider fans chirp a little bit too, because it's fun. It's all in good fun. When we're able to get back to games, I like to, argue with folks in the stands and do all that stuff too, but keep it fun. Yeah, keep it fun. Keep it fun. Now, I'm hoping Las Vegas is a lot safer than the black hole used to be, but we don't know. So we're just about wrapping it up here on Mile High Insiders. We're looking for a couple.
It was Connor Cook versus Brock Osweiler.
Yeah, that's what it was. John, nice. John off the top rope. That was Connor Cook.
I just wanted to say that thinking about that makes me really regret my earlier decision where it's more football. If more football means I have to watch Connor Cook for Brock versus Brock Osweiler, I don't know if I want it. I really don't know if I want it if that's the outcome.
No. Well, Nick, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I enjoyed watching Phillip Rivers throw the football the other night. Is that weird?
Yeah.
Like, I actually enjoyed it. It was weird. I was like, he's busted. He's got nothing. Man, guy knew what he was doing with his reads, and I don't think he turned the ball over, which was weird.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. And I mean, how about that Colts defense? And
dude.
And they also have Grover Stewart, I think, is the defensive lineman. If I remember correctly, he went 1 pick before the Broncos took Jake Butt. I actually really was hoping for Grover Stewart with that pick over George Kittle because George Kittle was injured. Obviously, in hindsight, George Kittle had been the guy to go. But Grover Stewart, and I think it was Mike Mayock was beside himself because it was announced by like an orangutan at the Indianapolis Zoo.
Was it really?
Yeah, I think he was just like, this is the dumbest thing I ever saw in my life. So I'll find that highlight and send it to you guys. It's pretty darn funny. But we got to get out of here pretty soon. Luke, predictions. Kevin Peterson first, obviously jumping in late. Watch it tomorrow. Love y'all and Bronco fam. Thank you very much, Kevin. Good to see you getting in here late. So that's great. He also didn't enjoy. Kevin said, I didn't enjoy him destroying my +1 Titans at home. Kevin, I feel for you there. You got to be careful with the sports betting. But Luke, I think you're muted or your mic's not working anymore. Your lips are moving, but I don't see you. All right. Well, we're having some technical difficulties on Luke's side of things, so hopefully we'll figure that out. But guys, I think the Broncos are going to end up losing tomorrow. Unfortunately, I think it'll be a good game, but I think the Raiders pull it out. The Raiders have a more explosive offense right now, and they're just led by the better quarterback. So unfortunately, but I think that we're going to see them go up the Raiders win 30-20. And Kenneth, I do not see your other super chat here. I saw this one. Oh, now I hear you. The Raiders fans. Were you live the last time they won the Super Bowl? I'm scrolling up here. Let's hear your take. I'll look for Kenneth's comment here.
Super chat. I'll go with my game prediction as we wrap up the show here. I've got the Raiders winning 33-27 over the Broncos. I think it's going to be a nasty running game. I think it's going to be a quick game, Nick. I think the clock is going to be running with Jacobs and Booker, and I expect Devontae Booker to make me and the Broncos eat crow tomorrow. I think he's going to get a touchdown. I think he's going to stare down that Broncos bench, and that's going to be one of the lower points in the season. So I got Raiders 33-27 over the Broncos.
Yeah, nope. I think it's going to be – I'm just hoping for a good game. I think we had one of my favorites here, Charlie Beagle, coming in. Dear Lord, I beseech thee, don't let it be boring. Amen. So win, lose, that's I think we can all agree with that. We appreciate it, but we appreciate you guys too. Gonna get on out of here so you don't get too long so Chad doesn't get angry at us, but we appreciate you. You can find me on Twitter at Nick Kendell MHH and Luke at Luke Patterson LP. Going over to milehighhuddle.com for all of our written content and the Mile High Huddle community. Also go to iTunes, leave us a 5-star rating and a comment, like, subscribe, and share, and join us on YouTube. Click those thumbs up on Facebook, and doing so can really help support us and all our other shows. Follow us on Twitter at Mile High Huddle and at MHI_football pod. For Luke, I'm Nick, wrapping up another episode of the Mile High Insiders. Guys, we love you. Go Broncos.
Go Broncos.
Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com to keep the conversation going.